evening and welcome into another edition of Crunch Time here on ASTV Productions. I am Wags alongside Joe and Scott. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening? It's a beautiful rainy day here in St. Louis.
You know what? I'll take a little bit of rain. I knew we were going to have to contest with some rain. We've had some nice days in the past, so it's nice to get a little rain, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's that time of the year in St. Louis that you're going to get thunderstorms, and we've gotten some pretty good thunderstorms this evening. So it's just that part of spring, man.
That it is. It's the wonderful, wonderful spring that we've all been hoping for and wishing for. And now I'm really hoping that it does not affect tomorrow's festivities, because if you don't know anything about St. Louis, and if you don't know anything about St. Louis baseball, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow at Busch Stadium for opening day. The Cardinals, the pageantry, the Hall of Famers, the Clydesdales, all of that is supposed to happen tomorrow. And yes, we're not at full capacity, but still, it's going to feel like opening day tomorrow. And Scott, I know you're a part of it because you work with the Cardinals. Talk to me a little bit about your excitement for tomorrow, what you expect.
Man, it's gonna be nice just to walk into that ballpark again tomorrow, because it's been way too long. You know, it's been over a year since we've been in there, and it's going to be fun. Although you talked about the weather, it wouldn't be a Cardinal opening day at Busch if there wasn't at least rain in the forecast. I mean, it happens every single year, but it's still going to be fun. The Clydesdales are going to be there. Some of the Red Jackets will be there. Everybody's not going to be there tomorrow. They're going to have basically the guys that are in the area be there, but you'll still have the Aussies and the Ted Simmons and Jim Edmonds. Some of those guys will be there, which will be really cool. The Clydesdales, of course. The guys will come out in their Ford trucks, circle the stadium. It'll be like pretty close to a normal opening day. There's going to be a tribute for Lou and Bob tomorrow. It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be loud. There's going to be 16,000 people in there, but I'm sure with all the people in Ballpark Village and people that are in the ballpark tomorrow, it's going to sound more like 45,000.
That it will, and Nolan Arenado will get his first look at the Sea of Red, and he's going to be catching the ceremonial first pitch thrown by Cardinals Hall of Famer Scott Rowland. So a lot of really, really cool things going on with that and opening day, and we'll have all of your coverage tomorrow on Crunch Time Nightly as well. The great thing about this is the Cardinals are coming into opening day on a winning streak, over 500, and playing somewhat decent baseball right now. They just got done with a sweep of the Marlins. And I guess, if you ever want to get yourself right, you just go down to Miami and play the Marlins. But the team looks good. They hit some home runs. Dylan Carlson's looking like he is locked in at this point in time right now. Nolan Arenado's still hitting. Yadier Molina with the home run today. But the big thing for me is the fact that this pitching staff has looked at least somewhat better than it did against Cincinnati. Now, granted, in Cincinnati it was cold. It was nasty. It's kind of a little bit of what you were expecting opening day to be like here. But seeing Jack Flaherty get 6 shutout innings, seeing Ponce de Leon pitch well, seeing John Gant pitch well, does it kind of put your guys' minds at ease that that opening weekend was just a fluke and this team actually does have good, decent starting pitching?
It puts my mind at ease a little bit. I mean, you have to think. The 27 runs in 3 games, I attribute that to one thing and one thing only. That ballpark being a bandbox. You have to keep the ball down. If you don't keep the ball down in Cincinnati, you're going to be hit around a lot. And you know what? It was funny because opening day, it was so cold there, but yet the ball was flying like it was 80 degrees. So that was an oddity in my mind. But 27 runs in 3 games by the Cardinal pitching, I was a little worried going into Miami, but knowing Miami isn't quite there yet for an 162-game season in my mind. So it was a nice way to bounce back for the Cardinals for sure.
Well, I mean, you got to give that pitching staff credit. You give up 27 runs in 3 days in Cincinnati, and then you go to Miami and give up 3 runs in 3 days. I mean, they didn't give up any hits either. Things started to fall into place. You get the 5 innings from Ponce, and your bullpen doesn't have to pitch as many innings. Flaherty looked pretty good today. I mean, we saw flashes of the Jack Flaherty that everybody wants to see. His control still wasn't totally there today, but even walking 4 guys, he was still dominant and only gave up 1 hit. And then, if the Cardinals can get a lead into that 6th or 7th inning, like they used to say with, like they said with Milwaukee a couple of years ago in those Yankees bullpens, game's pretty much over. If the Cardinals have a lead going into 7, when you can turn it over to Hicks, Gallegos, and Reyes, you're going to take your chances every night. And, those three guys have shown it already. They can be dominant. And Genesis Cabrera pitched really well today for 2 innings. So that's a plus. But I think the biggest key for me is that the Cardinals scored 33 runs on this road trip, and Arenado and Goldie drove home 5 of them. So that means, they didn't really have to do a ton. I mean, yes, Nolan had hits in every game, and Goldie hit well, but they're not having to carry this lineup right now. I mean, Dylan Carlson's got 9 RBIs. Yachty's got 7. DeYoung has 6. I mean, those guys are driving home the runs right now. So that's the really encouraging sign for me with this offense right now and this team.
Agreed, 100%, because this team has to be able to get runs from every part of that lineup. And we saw a little bit of the fact that, Justin Williams, Austin Dean, John Nogowski haven't been able to do a whole lot as far as that outfield position is concerned. Tyler O'Neill's been a little quiet as well. So we need a little bit more from those 2 corner outfield positions. But seeing as you're getting output from DeYoung and from Molina and from those other outsources, it does make you go, okay, I'm a little okay right now. Let's see how it progresses, and maybe these guys can get going. The one thing, going back to the pitching, that I just kind of want to ask you guys this, if there's any sort of worry in your mind with, and I think Joe has talked about this a little bit as well, any worries that Jack Flaherty is pitching a lot and not getting really past that 6th inning, because he pitched 101 pitches today, and he was a little wild, like you said, Scott, 4 walks, but we haven't really seen him be able to kind of crack that 6th inning threshold. Is there any worry that that's all we're going to get out of him, or are we just making a mountain out of a molehill?
I mean, I think there has to be a little bit of concern about that, just because we haven't seen it. Like you said, he's been a 5 or 6 inning pitcher for the most part since he's come up. But, that's kind of how baseball has adapted. You just don't see starters. I mean, after his 6 innings tonight, he's now thrown the most innings in a start of any pitcher in the National League Central. So, I mean, nobody's doing it. So, I mean, it's just the way the game is right now, especially with the odd year last year. I'm thinking that you're going to get 6 and 7 out of him. We still got to get him. We just got to get him to get that control down a little bit. He's throwing too many pitches to get batters out. Every batter it's 5 or 6 pitches. He's having a little trouble getting his slider in the strike zone. But if he can figure that out, I think what you saw today is the Jack Flaherty you're going to see the rest of the season.
I am 100% good with that. Let's get into some of the other scores that are final throughout the league. Actually, there's only a couple of games going on right now, just the Orioles, Yankees, and Diamondbacks and Rockies. Everything else has gone final. Joe, I know you talked to Theo last night about the winless Braves and the winless A's. Well, you made a bet, and right now the Braves have actually taken the lead on that because the A's won 1 game today, whereas the Braves won 2 games today. So good job on that one. The Braves sweep the doubleheader with the Nationals 7-6 in game 1, 2-0 in game 2, whereas the A's are able to beat the Dodgers 4-3 in 10 innings. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on those 2 teams because they are winless up until today. Joe, first off, what made you make that bet? What is the bet, and do you even think we have a chance of winning?
So this bet I kind of made with Theo yesterday. We haven't agreed on a wager yet. We'll kind of talk on behind closed doors on that. But the bet was who would have more wins at the end of the season, the Oakland A's or the Atlanta Braves. He took the Atlanta Braves. We got the Oakland A's. I think there's a sliver of a shot here, and I want Scott's reaction since I didn't get to talk to him after last night. How do you like our chances on this, Scott?
Well, I liked it a whole lot more than a couple hours ago than I do right now because I just read an article a little while ago that new Oakland closer Trevor Rosenthal is probably going to have thoracic outlet surgery and is probably done for the season. So Oakland's probably lost their closer for the year. So that doesn't make me feel too optimistic.
Well, and Oakland did lose a couple of key pieces, including Chris Davis, and you have a Marcus Semien. Question, Wags, how much of a loss is that for the Oakland A's?
It's a huge loss. I went into this when I got your message today about it. I'm like, the A's have the luxury of playing in the AL West, but they don't have a great team. The Braves have a more complete team. And yes, John, I think you might be right. The bet should be if Joe loses, he can't talk about the Packers for a year. Go Braves! That's all I got to say on that
one. But hey, this is a show. And Theo was the one who said, oh, you guys will take the Oakland A's.
Oh, so you let him? Okay,
no,
yeah. He knew what he was doing.
He knew he said it. So he said it. Hey, you know what?
Yes.
He kind of dictated it.
Yes, because he wanted the Braves. He wasn't going to let you pick Atlanta. Oh, no. Oh, Joe.
Hey, so hey, I'm probably gonna end up taking the brunt of this. So this punishment, if we do lose, should be something that I have to do. So, but I mean, yes, the Packer thing's awesome, but we do have to see 17 games a year. So you're going to hear me talk about the Packers. I mean, I can't.
We can find ways to not talk about the Packers. Trust me. So, all right, let's get a couple more scores around the league. The Reds an 11-4 victory over the Pirates. The Reds a 5-run first inning. They took the lesson that the Cardinals did on opening day and applied it to the Pirates. They actually outscored the Pirates 11-0 through 8 innings. Hit 4 home runs today. The Reds look like they might be a threat in the Central, even not having Trevor Bauer. Do you guys think that the Reds have a chance at winning the Central this year?
I do not. I don't think their starting pitching is good enough. I think their defense is awful. And you get them out of that ballpark in Cincinnati and they have to go on the road. They're not going to hit like this all year long. So I think the other parts of their team are weak enough that they're not going to be that good for 162 games.
I have to agree with Scott. I remember talking to him before the season even started, and he mentioned that horrendous defense. I didn't realize how bad it was until that first game. I mean, they were throwing the ball over the place, booting the ball over the place. And when they did have to go to Atlanta last year in that wild card series, how many runs did they score?
0. Pretty sure it was 0.
Yeah, so I don't like the chances for the Reds winning this division at all.
I agree 100%, and that's mainly because I'm a Cardinals fan. The Indians a 4-2 victory over the Royals today. Jose Ramirez 2 for 4, 2 runs, 4 RBIs, 2 home runs, including the go-ahead home run against former Cardinal closer Greg Holland. So we're used to that here in St. Louis. The Twins a 3-2 victory over the Tigers. Kente Maeda 6 innings pitched, 6 strikeouts, getting the victory. The Red Sox a 9-2 victory over the Rays. Vasquez 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs. Xander Bogaerts 3 for 3, 2 runs and an RBI. We talked about him being a very big piece for the Red Sox this year. The Rangers a 2-1 victory over the Blue Jays. Friend of the show, Kyle Gibson, 6 innings pitched, 6 hits, 8 strikeouts. Scott, I want to ask you this one real quick since you're friends with Kyle. What do you think his outcome this year is going to be? I know he dealt with some injuries over the last year or so.
I'm glad to see him bounce back tonight because his start on opening day, he didn't get out of the first inning. So good to see Kyle have a really good game. I think he's going to be solid. You know, that Texas team's not very good, but I can see him winning 12 or 13 games this year.
I'm sure he and the Rangers will both take that. Brewers, a 4-2 victory over the Cubs in 10 innings. Lorenzo Cain, 2 home runs today, 4 RBIs, including a go-ahead 3-run homer in the top of the 10th. Already talked about the A's and Dodgers, although we didn't talk too much about that game. Kenley Jansen gave up the lead in that game in the 9th inning against the A's, and then Mitch Moreland a walk-off single. We've talked in the past about Kenley Jansen being a guy that may not be what he used to be. Is that a problem for the Dodgers this year? Are they going to have to look elsewhere for the back end of their bullpen?
They could. You know, I think they've been looking the last couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see if they make that run for a closer at the trade deadline. And that division's kind of been thrown all up for grabs with Fernando Tatis hurting his shoulder again, and he's going to be out for some time. So it's going to be interesting to see. The Dodgers pitchers have had a couple of hiccups. The Padres are missing Tatis. It's going to be interesting to see how that division shakes up over the next couple of weeks.
It sure will. Phillies an 8-2 victory over the Mets. Bowman and Real Muto both have 3-run homers. The Mariners 8-4 over the White Sox. Seattle beneficiary of a 7-run 6th inning that included just an RBI single, sac fly, RBI double, and an RBI single. So not a huge hitting inning there, but 7 runs for them. The Padres fall to the Giants 3-2 in 10 innings. Kevin Gausman, 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, an earned run, a walk, and 5 Ks in that one. That'll do it on the Major League Baseball scene. We're going to take a quick break, Come back, talk a little bit about some other news and notes in the world of sports here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions.
Hi, I'm JD Houghton, host of the SAS Sports Show. Catch it every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time for all things Saskatchewan sports.
And back here on Crunch Time here on ASTV. Let's dive into some news and notes around the world of sports before we get into the NHL and the NBA. Start off in the NFL and the continuing drama around DeShaun Watson. Obviously, more allegations have been coming out against him. Still mostly just civil suits, nothing really criminal yet. There's still potential for that to happen. But now he's starting to have his paycheck affected. He lost his sponsorships today with Nike and Beats by Dre. Nike suspending his deal, Beats by Dre ending it. And then he's got a couple of other endorsements with Reliant Energy and HEB supermarket chain that they're not going to renew their deals because they ended here in the spring. I know we are still in the process of innocent until proven guilty, but things are still continuing to add up and pile on to DeShaun Watson. Are we starting to see enough smoke to this fire to make us go, okay, there's something here and something needs to be looked at a little bit closer?
I mean, I don't know what to think about this whole thing, because even though there's 22 women that have come out and accused him and filed civil lawsuits against him, there's also 18 to 20 women now that have come out and defended him and said they've worked with him as a masseuse and have had no issues and have come to his defense. So it's just a weird situation that keeps getting weirder by the day, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I remember talking about this with you, Scott, and I asked you the same thing. And you said there's a chance that they could kind of debunk one of these allegations. If they can do that, then there could be a domino effect of, maybe you can prove some of these women wrong, to be wrong about these things. But man, if you have this amount of people coming out against you, there has to be something wrong. And I want to ask you guys a question on top of that. Do you guys think DeShaun Watson ends up getting moved or released by the Texans because of this?
He won't get released by the Texans. I don't think that's something that they're going to be able to do. It comes down to, does he get placed on the list? I can't remember what it's called now off the top of my head. But it's not suspended, but he's not able to play. I mean, the NFL is going to have to at some point make a decision and make a ruling on this and say, look, while the investigation is going on, you can't play, but we're not suspending you, so he still gets paid. I don't think he gets moved either, because you looked at, Carolina was one of those destinations that he was potentially going. Well, they've got Sam Darnold now. Miami, they've collected a lot of picks and they've got Tua to potentially trade as well. But does Miami want to bring that kind of cloud over their team at this point, regardless of if it's true or not? Do they want to bring that down there? And really, if it is true, bringing him from an environment of like Houston to an environment like Miami might only exacerbate it as well. So, are they going to be willing to give up all of that for potential of maybe not even having him? So I don't think he gets moved at all. I think he's in Houston this year. I think he plays this year as well. But once again, it's a tricky, difficult slope. And until things start to come out factually, we're all just second guessing everything.
Yeah, and I don't honestly know that there's any factual stuff that's going to come out. I mean, it's pretty much just he said, she said for the most part. I mean, because there are no criminal filings of any kind. There's doesn't seem to be any legitimate proof other than women saying he did and DeShaun saying he didn't and other women saying he didn't do anything to me. So I'm not really sure what happens here, to be honest with you. And there was an article today that Miami and Philadelphia are both following this very closely, that they both still have at least some level of interest in trading for DeShaun Watson. So, it's still possible that he does get moved. Yeah, it's going to come down to, again, like you said, Wags, if he gets put on the inactive list where he can't play, where, like you said, he's not suspended, but at the same time he's not playing either. That's going to be a league investigation. But again, without any solid proof of anything, unless somebody comes out with just ironclad proof that he really did do something, in which you would think at this point, if there was something like that, we know it by now. You would think that somebody would have leaked it somewhere. And, Joe was talking about me saying that there was a chance that they could prove some of these were not true. DeShaun's lawyer came out today and again said that one of the women, they have texts and paperwork that one of these women asked for $100,000 to go away before they ever even went to a lawyer or filed any kind of civil litigation. So, there's just so many questions here still.
There really are, and it's something that we don't want to speculate on, because if these women were sexually assaulted, they need to be protected, and they need their stories heard, and the people that did it need to be disciplined the way that they should be. And if they didn't, and it's all fabrication, then at least find a way to clear this man's name. It's just such a tricky slope, and you got to be real careful about how you approach this. But yeah, until until ironclad stuff comes out, you just gotta have to kind of go forward with it as normal as you possibly can. So we'll continue to follow this story, as most people will, because it's going to affect a lot of different things. It's going to affect Houston. It's going to affect Miami and Philadelphia and the NFL and a lot of other pieces as well. So we'll definitely continue to follow this story as it develops. Jumping over to college basketball real quick, because a big name in college basketball was let go today. After 12 seasons, Sean Miller is out at Arizona. And I'll be perfectly honest, after 2017 and the corruption investigation, I completely forgot that he was still the coach of Arizona. Somehow he dodged everything that went down with that. He has always denied paying players to come to there, but there's still something off about that whole situation. And Arizona was discussing a contract extension, but the Board of Regents would not approve that due to ongoing NCAA issues. Now, Arizona, 7 NCAA tournaments, 3 Elite Eights, 5 solo or shared Pac-12 titles in Miller's time. First off, were you guys shocked that Miller was still there? And is this the right move for Arizona at this point in time to just kind of let things go and move on after the 2017 investigation?
Wags, you took the word right out of my mouth, and I'm shocked he was still there. The fact is that you'd think every coach would have been let go. Not every coach involved in these allegations would have been let go right away. And that raises the question, why were they hiding this? Why wouldn't they let him go? Why would they wait 3 years to let him go after it was all brought up? That just makes no sense to me. Scott, can you help me explain this? Because I can't even explain it myself.
So they let him go now because his contract, he was about to be in a contract extension. They decided not to extend him. They just decided it was time to part ways. And they've let some of the drama around it die down. People have stopped talking about it. It's not in the forefront of people's minds. And just to tell you how college basketball works, I read an article right before we came on, and it said that there are at least 4 teams interested in Miller, and he will have a head coaching job by the weekend. So he's not going away. Somebody's going to bring him right in immediately. And Joe, you said, why weren't all coaches let go? There's a simple question for that. If you were going to let every coach go that did something like that, there would be no big name coaches in college basketball, because whether we want to admit it or not, on some level, they all do it.
Oh yeah, no question. I mean, Bill Self, Roy Williams, they were all part of something. I mean, there was the whole class passing of players at North Carolina that, Roy Williams, I guess maybe didn't know about, but kind of knew about. Every college has something, whether it's the corruption scandal of paying players or grades or what have you. There's always something going on, some sort of manipulation to get certain guys or girls to a school and to keep them there, to keep them playing. So, yeah, if you would have fired everybody, come on. The thing that got me was the fact that it seemed like they had Sean Miller on audio tape talking about the payments for I-8. And that's the thing that really got me, is like, if you've got this, how are you not able to prove that he knew about it and let him go? And that's what it came down to, is they weren't able to kind of like prove it. They basically charged him with one like uncontrollable clause, like he just didn't have control over the organization, and that's all that they got him on, even though they had him on tape. So it just makes you question what the investigation actually found.
Yeah. And, again, like we talked about, look at some of these coaches that have scandal after scandal and they keep getting jobs. I mean, look at guys like Kelvin Sampson at Houston. How many times has he gotten left of school or gotten fired, and as soon as he leaves, that school goes on probation because there's all kinds of violations that were committed while he was there? And it's not just him. It happens with John Calipari and Rick Pitino and all of these big name coaches. So I mean, it's part of the fabric of college basketball, whether you like it or not, and all college sports for that matter. Big time college sports, it's just part of it.
Yeah, all about the money. All about the money. All right, let's jump over to golf now. I know golf, right? The Masters is coming up this week, and unfortunately, Tiger Woods will not be there, obviously, because of the car accident that he had a couple of weeks ago. Well, it was finally revealed today just pretty much what the cause of that crash was. And I think it's what we all expected it to be, because that's what the cause of most of the crashes on this stretch of road have involved, and it was speed. Apparently, Woods was traveling between 84 and 87 miles an hour on that downhill stretch. Speed limit there is just 45 miles an hour, so more than double the speed limit. His car was going 75 miles an hour when it hit the tree. Now, as part of the investigation, it looks like the black box showed that his accelerator was actually pressed to 99%, which, if you look at that, it almost makes you sit there and think that he was actually trying to hit the brakes and ended up hitting the accelerator instead. It's still a weird situation, but because so many accidents have happened on that stretch of road due to speed, I'm almost of the mindset that I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that it just was a simple accident. Obviously, there was no traces of alcohol or anything like that at the scene of the crime or the scene of the accident. I apologize. So is this really just a legit accident for Tiger Woods and nothing you can really do about it?
Yeah, I think so. And that's a relief to me, because I was really afraid they were going to find painkillers or something in his system again. So the fact that his blood alcohol content was clean, that there weren't any traces of any painkillers or anything in his system, yeah, I think it was just an accident. And as a Tiger fan, I'm kind of relieved, to be honest with you.
It's kind of interesting in my mind that they come out with this right at Masters Week. Is that a coincidence, or is that just me? I mean,
no, it's not a coincidence at all. I mean, that's just when the investigation was done. And honestly, they weren't going to really reveal anything anyway. If you read the articles earlier, late last week, it said that they had kind of determined what had caused the crash, and that they just weren't going to release the information. And when they talked about this today, when they did actually release it, actually a standard procedure that the only people that know about the accident, the cause, are the people that were involved. And if they are allowing it to be released, then it gets released. So yeah, they were talking about how it might have been preferential treatment for Tiger, but if you read the statutes and everything in California, it's actually standard procedure that they don't actually reveal the cause of the crash until at least they've spoken with the people involved.
Well, and I think Tigers Camp probably wanted it to be released, because when they came out last week and said, they weren't going to release it because of privacy issues, I think that raised a lot of red flags. I think a lot of people were like, oh, what's Tiger trying to hide here? So I think Tigers Camp really wanted them to release it and let people know that he wasn't intoxicated or on painkillers or anything when this happened, and it was just an accident.
Yeah, that's the absolute hope. And yeah, it just goes to prove that he is on the up and up right now. All right, coming up next, we're going to dive into the NHL. Trade deadline is approaching, and the Blues are in action right now. So make sure you come back for that here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. And back here on ASTV Productions, Crunch Time, Wags, Joe, and Scott. Going to jump into the NHL now. The Blues are in action tonight, hosting the Vegas Golden Knights, and currently at 4.5 to go in the second period. The Blues hold a 2-0 lead over Vegas. Goals by Vladimir Tarasenko and Sammy Blais tonight have staked the Blues to a 2-0 lead. And let's just get into this because it is a bad time to be a Blues fan. They have been dropping like a stone here recently, are now outside the playoff picture, at least at this point in time, trailing Arizona for that fourth and final spot. Guys, this is a very, very, very interesting time to be a Blues fan. Just lay it on me. What is going on with this team?
You're bringing back guys, and a lot of these guys coming back from injury. You're not going to win right away with these guys. The one thing that I had a question about coming into the season, Wags, and it's rearing its ugly head, and he's played well tonight, the goaltending. How is Jordan Binnington and Ville Husso going to how is that tandem going to pan out? Now, Jordan Binnington's record right now is 10. He's a game under 500 at 10-11-1 or 10-11-5. So, Binnington isn't having a great year. That also has to do with the defense. The defense in front of him is not playing well. And Colton Parayko coming back, yes, a lot of people thought that was going to be an easy fix. But look, he just came back from a pretty bad injury. So I'm willing to give this team a little bit of time. The interesting part for me was Mike Hoffman was a healthy scratch for tonight's game. And so, there's a trade imminent maybe with him. There has to be. He has 9 goals and 28 points in 31 games. That's not going to cut it. He's an East Coast type player, Wags.
He has 28 points in 31 games. That means he's almost a point a game player.
My bad. I know he has 9 goals. And he has 9 goals, and this is a guy you brought in to score goals. That's a big problem, Wags. And Wags, do you kind of take solace in the saying he's an East Coast player?
I don't really know what an East Coast player is because that's not really anything that has ever been said, at least in the circles that I've talked to.
What I mean by that is the East Coast more like it's not as, physical as the West Coast style is my thing. And he got a lot of open ice, which, led to goals. He has to work.
Have you ever seen teams like Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, New York Rangers? Have you ever seen them play? Because they're pretty damn physical. Philadelphia had, the Broad Street Bullies back in the 70s. So I wouldn't really consider East Coast play to be, frilly, fruitsy, anything like that.
What's been Hoffman's problem then? Why can't he adjust to this roster, this style of play then, Wags? What is it?
Have you not seen him? Have you seen any consistency on where he plays?
No.
So there you go. Until you can get comfortable and play in the same spots, you're going to struggle a little bit. He hasn't been utilized on the power play, but the last couple of games, he's been up and down the lineup playing on, his off wing a bunch of games as well. So he's just not being utilized as much or in the right position as he should be. And maybe that's Craig Berube saying, hey, I didn't actually need him here, so I'm not going to put him in a position to be successful. Or maybe it's just Berube not really knowing what to do with a guy like Mike Hoffman. It's one of those two things. I don't know, but they haven't been able to make it work with him. And yes, he might be a guy that's on the trade block. So we'll see what happens. Scott, I know you had a theory on the Blues. Why don't you put that out there so we can see what that's all about?
Well, real quick before I do that, 28 points in 31 games isn't that awful. I know you wanted to score more goals, but that's still pretty good. He's still third or fourth on the team in points?
Yeah.
So
quietly,
Yeah, he doesn't. Just to clarify, he does not have 28 points.
Okay, that's on me.
He does not have 28 points. He has 21 points.
21 points. I was 7 points off. That's bad. That's terrible. But the thing is, he has 21 points in 31 games. That's not gonna cut it. This guy was brought in to score goals. be a 5-on-5 force. He's not a 5-on-5 player, Wags. That's for sure. But Scott, what was your theory? Because I found it very interesting.
I mean, it was something that went back to Wags and I talked about a couple of weeks ago, just about the philosophy on this team and if there's a disconnect. And just it even goes to what Wags just said about Hoffman and Berube. Well, maybe Berube's not playing. He's playing him in different positions because he didn't need him on the team, or he doesn't really care if he succeeds. What does that say about your head coach if you're doing that with big name guys that your GM brought in? You know, if they don't work in your system, where is there a disconnect between Doug Armstrong and the system that Craig Berube wants to run, the kind of players that he wants to have? And is there just a disconnect in this organization? Well, as you and I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago, if there was something just fundamentally flawed with this organization, because we keep hearing, things like, oh, they're soft. How many times in the last week have we heard Craig Berube say these guys are soft? There's no effort. They're not pulling in the same direction. I mean, these are the things that we've heard for going back probably a decade with different coaches. You bring a coach in, they're good for a year or two, and then it's like these guys tune them out, and then we just keep hearing the same thing over and over again. And so I said, if Craig Berube's having this problem now, and we had this problem in the bubble last year, so, this team hasn't been good now for over a year, basically, with the talent that everybody thought they were going to make another Stanley Cup run. If they struggle again this year and they don't make the playoffs, and let's just say they bottom out and they don't play well and they do end up, with one of the last spots in the conference. At that point, with the things that we've just talked about where maybe Armstrong and Berube aren't on the same page, is Craig Berube's job at jeopardy at that point? Because we've known that the Blues are not afraid to fire a coach when things start to go bad.
I mean, it's a great question. I think, and I know this is going to sound cliche, but I think he's got a little bit more of a grace period because of the Stanley Cup victory. I think he's got at least another half of season. If they get into next year and are a quarter of the way or halfway through the season and still playing like this, I think that's probably the time that you make that change. It always seems to be the coach that gets the short end of the stick because you talk about the disconnect. If the coach isn't getting the players that will fit his system in a system that's been proven to win, then that falls on the general manager. The general manager needs to stock the team with who will make this team successful. And if it matches the style of the coach, that's all well and good. So there is some sort of disconnect between Doug Armstrong and Craig Berube. There has to be, because you lose out on Alex Pietrangelo. I get the whole not wanting to do the no movement clause because you don't want to hamstring a team and have a player totally have ownership over a team. I get that. I like that. That's fine. But you bring in a guy like Torrey Krug, undersized defenseman. Come on. He's not going to replace. He's not going to be physical. Yes, he's laid some big hits in his time, but he's not a physical defender. You trade away Jake Allen. So you basically hurt your defense. You weaken your defense. Then you weaken your goaltending by not re-signing Pietrangelo. It just makes everything worse. And that falls on the general manager. And we've talked about this a little bit, Scott, and I've talked about this with the guys over at Blue Notes Pod as well. And this is not an indictment on Tom Stillman at all. Not at all, because I love him. I love what he's done for the Blues. He helped bring a Stanley Cup here. But is Tom Stillman too nice? Can he tell his general manager no? Can he tell his coach, I'll get you the guys you need, regardless on if the GM wants to or not? Is Tom Stillman too nice of an owner?
See, I don't think Stillman wants to be that involved. I mean, that's what Doug Armstrong's there for. He's the general manager. So I don't think Stillman wants to be involved in those kind of decisions. I think that's what Armstrong is there for. And, you have to question, and I asked this question the other day, would they have been better off? At this point, are you better off to have signed Petro and kept Jake Allen and not made these other moves that you made in the offseason? I know it would have been financially difficult, but, when you look at the future of this team, are there really pieces on this team that this defense is going to get better internally? I mean, to play the kind of system that Berube wants. And, Brett, I'm going to give Brad Thompson credit for this because he brought this up on the Fast Lane today. He said, we saw Petro left because Doug Armstrong kind of dug his heels in and said, I'm not going to give in to what you want. You're either going to take my deal or you're going to go. And that didn't work out. And they're saying probably the same thing is going to happen with Jaden Schwartz, that he's not going to give Schwartz what he wants. It's going to be my way or you're gone. I mean, is Doug Armstrong too bottom line, too hardcore when it comes to these negotiations and isn't willing to bend to some of your better players to keep them in the organization?
That's another good question, because you also seen the contracts that he's given out to guys like, a Yori Laterra, things like that. And yes, he was able to move them and get better pieces for them, but he has given bad contracts out. So it's not like he can make the argument like, hey, I've never given out bad contracts before. I'm not going to start now. I'm going to continue to keep this team cycling with good contracts and have flexibility. This team is up and to the cap right now. And that's because of the contracts that Doug Armstrong has given out as well. So now it feels like it's just him covering his own ass by saying, hey, look, I can't give these, I'm not going to kowtow to any of these guys because I'm not going to do that. And that just once again makes you question it. You don't have players that fit Berube's system, even though you've seen that it works. You are getting ready to get rid of some of your better players. You don't have Alex Pietrangelo here anymore. If Jaden Schwartz goes anywhere, and I tell you what, despite his injury history, Jaden Schwartz is the next Alex Steen on this team. And Alex Steen had an injury history as well. Go back to Toronto. If you ask a Maple Leafs fan, what was your biggest gripe with Alex Steen? It was the fact that he was injured all the time. And because he was injured, he wasn't as productive as he could be. That's Jaden Schwartz to a T. He's a guy that's dealt with injuries the last couple of years. He's had productive seasons, but not the things that you're used to. But he's also a team guy. He's a guy that has Alex Steen's blood in him, in a sense. He is a guy that you're going to eventually see on a fourth line leading a team to a Stanley Cup. And to get rid of that, yes, you may have to overpay a little bit, but the Blues are going to have money coming off the books. So I don't see guys in our system that are going to replace that. You talk about the defensive side of things. The one guy that we thought was going to get a lot of playing time this year and potentially be a guy that could make some moves was Niko Mikkola. All of a sudden, he's not playing. Jake Wallman is playing, and he's not the greatest defender, although he had a couple of plays tonight that have been pretty damn good. But it's just, you don't have that. And Niko Mikkola is a guy that has to be able to take that next step. The Blues have a lot of money locked up in their defense right now. They have a lot of money at the moment locked up in forwards, but some of that's going to go away here in the next year or so. It's just it's a weird question. And I think, unfortunately, the axe will probably fall on Berube if the team struggles out of the gate next year, when really the axe, for everything that Doug Armstrong has done good here, bringing in Ryan O'Reilly, even Justin Falk to an extent, it's not going to, it needs to fall on Doug Armstrong, and it's not going to.
Sadly, you're right. And I thought guys like Niko Mikkola would fit Berube's system. I don't know why he's not getting a lot of playing time. He's another, and I know you're going to cringe at this comparison here. He's another Colton Parayko out there. He's huge. Let the big guys play. He fits Berube's system, you would think, right, Wags? I mean, I don't understand why he's playing either.
He's in Berube's doghouse for some reason. I don't know what it is, but he is, and until he can get out of it. Now the thing is with Berube, you look at the guys that he's put in the doghouse. I mean, he put Robert Thomas in there a couple of years ago. He put Jordan Kyrou in it last year, and look what Kyrou's done this year. So you look at it, and he's got a track record for being successful. And yes, it's for the players, it's like, man, why am I here? But if they learn the lesson that he's trying to teach them, they're going to be better off for it anyway. So we'll see. I think Mikkola's still got a good chance of being an impact defender on this team. Maybe a third pair, might be, but he's going to make an impact at some point in his career at the St. Louis Blues. All right, we're going to take another quick break here on Crunch Time. We're going to come back, talk some more NHL. The trade deadline is approaching. We're also going to dive a little bit into the NBA. So make sure you come back for more Crunch Time here on ASTV Productions.
Hey Crunch Time fans, my name is Graham Forsyth. I'm the host of Coffee with Graham and the Prospect Show on ASTV Productions. On Coffee with Graham, I talk to athletes, coaches, and whoever else involved in the amateur sports scene in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. And on the Prospect Show, I talk to the best young hockey prospects from around North America. You can catch all the coverage on ASTV Productions. You can catch Coffee with Graham on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. Central Time. And for the Prospect Show, that show airs every Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Hope to see you there. Have a good.
And make sure you catch all of the great shows here on ASTV Productions. Just go ahead and go to our website, astvproductions.com, and you'll be able to catch all of those great shows. And, Joe, you had Theo on the last couple of nights as well, and he's got great insight into the Canadian game. Graham has a lot of great insight as well, so make sure you check out all of those great shows. All right, some more NHL talk. Currently games going on. The Avalanche and the Wild are playing, and they are playing in a ridiculously high-scoring game right now. It's 5:38 to go in the second period. The Wild hold a 5-3 advantage over the Avalanche. Both of those teams the Blues are chasing. Probably not going to catch Colorado. They are at 56 points right now. The Blues are at 38, looking like they're going to need 60 to get into the playoffs this year. So I don't think the Blues are catching Colorado. Minnesota is probably out of their reach as well with 10 points, a 10-point lead right now. The team the Blues are chasing, the Arizona Coyotes, have a 2-1 lead over the LA Kings after the first period. They the Kings trail the Blues by 4 points. The Blues trail the Coyotes by 5 points. I just, once again, we're in that the Blues going to make the playoffs. You're looking at the teams that are in right now: Avalanche, Wild, Vegas Golden Knights, Arizona Coyotes. Which of those 4 teams in your guys' minds is the one that is more than likely going to come out of the West this year?
For me, it has to be the man. It's going to come down to Colorado and Vegas, of course, but I gotta go Vegas because you got the track record of the goaltender in Marc-Andre Fleury. He's won 2 cups in Pittsburgh. I think he's got one more in him, one more cup run in him. So I'm gonna say Vegas.
I'm gonna agree with that too. I think it'll be Vegas as well.
The thing that Vegas has going for him is the 2 goaltender system. Robin Lehner and Marc-Andre Fleury. We've seen in the past a 2 goaltender system outside of Tampa Bay last year. Andrei Vasilevsky is just in a world of his own. But you almost have to have 2 goaltenders that will carry you through in the playoffs. And having Lehner and Fleury as those 2 goaltenders is amazing. You've got to have that. With that being said, Colorado has a lot of firepower. Philip Grubauer is playing well, and their backup isn't playing poorly either. The one team that could really mess all this up for Colorado and Vegas is the team that Colorado is playing right now in Minnesota. They've got good goaltending. They've got the thrill in Kaprizov. I think Minnesota has a real chance of making some noise here and maybe upsetting one of these teams. Because if you look at it, you may have an Arizona-Colorado series to open things up. And Arizona, for as much of a pest as they are for the Blues, they're just as big a pest for the Colorado Avalanche as well. I could see Arizona potentially winning that series. And if Minnesota plays Vegas like they're playing Colorado right now, you might have the 3 and 4 seeds advance out of the West, surprisingly. I don't think it's going to happen because I do think Vegas is I think they're set up the best, but any one of those 4 teams has a real shot of being the team that comes out of the West this year. We don't get a chance to see some of these other divisions playing out, but I'm just going to kind of run down these real quick. Yeah, you look in the Central, you've got Florida sitting up at the top at 56 points with Carolina and Tampa Bay close behind. Now, Florida is without Aaron Ekblad now after that major leg injury. Are we going to see them drop off here in a little bit and Tampa Bay really kind of take hold of this division? Or is Florida far enough ahead and playing well enough that they actually might be able to steal this division?
I think they could steal this division, and it's going to be for one reason only. the coach that was let go by Chicago, Joe Quenneville, what he's done with this team is nothing short of amazing. They've always had great talent, but they've never seemed to get over that hump. And when they hired Joe Quenneville, I go, man, watch out for Florida.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think Florida has a good chance, but Aaron Ekblad's injury, it's going to be too much for me. I think Tampa Bay still is probably the best team in that division. Carolina's a quiet surprise. I think Carolina is just going about their business, and it wouldn't shock me if they're the team that comes out of that division and makes that Final Four. So for me, it's Carolina, Tampa Bay. Over in the East, you've got Washington and the Islanders tied up at the top with Pittsburgh and Boston coming right up behind that. The Islanders made their play today by picking up Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac from the New Jersey Devils for A.J. Greer, Mason Jobst, a 2021 first-round pick, and a conditional 2022 fourth-round pick. Even better, the Devils retained 50% of both players' salaries. Palmieri, 8 goals, 9 assists this year. Zajac, 18 points in 33 games, a key center for the Islanders. I like New York out of the East. I think they have a really, really good chance of finally dropping this division out of the Capitals and Penguins and Bruins hands. So I'm really liking the Islanders there. And I know for Theo especially, over in the North, man, Toronto, another victory tonight over Montreal. They're at 57 points leading that division. Is this potentially Toronto's year?
You'd have to think so, at least to get past the first round or first 2 rounds. Potentially, you're going to have some rock'em sock'em hockey in the playoffs the first 2 rounds. I mean, it's going to be fun for sure. But Toronto's there. You got Winnipeg too. Winnipeg can score. They have 9 forwards who can score, Wags. They have 9 lines or 9 players that can scare you. Okay, I don't think any other team in the entire league has what Winnipeg does right now offensively. And I like the defending Vezina Trophy winner and Connor Hellebuck, the way he started off kind of shaky, be honest with you, but he has picked it up and looked like that he has that Vezina form back. So watch out for Winnipeg as well. I know Theo watches Winnipeg a lot, his favorite team. Actually, I've grown to like them too, but I'm also a Toronto fan. So I've told you this, I think. My second team is Toronto.
I think you've told us a few 100,000 times.
So, I'd like to see Toronto do it, but man, I think Winnipeg's going to be tough. Another team that's tough, Wags, and I want your opinion on this team, the Montreal Canadiens. No one saw this team coming, right?
I mean, they still have Carey Price, do they not?
Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, they're a young team.
Not as young as Ottawa or Calgary. I mean, I think they're right where they are supposed to be. They are in 4th place in the North Division. So I wouldn't say that no one saw it coming, because it's excuse my language, it's a piss poor division outside of Toronto and kind of Winnipeg. I mean, you can throw Edmonton in there as well, but they've never really been able to do much at all when it comes to being successful. So yeah, I don't think it's a surprise that Montreal is in 4th. I don't think it's a surprise at how many points they have right now. They've got 2 good goaltenders in Carey Price and Jake Allen. They've got decent players. I think the biggest surprise is the fact that Joel Edmondson is one of the best defenders on that team. So what does that say about the North if Joel Edmondson is one of the best defensemen in the league playing for Montreal?
Yeah, you got a very good point there, man. So, man, it'll be fun come playoff time, man.
It should be. Yeah, it really will be. So let's jump over to the NBA real quick as we're running out of time here. Just a couple of games that have gone final. You've got the Wizards over the Magic, 131-116. Bradley Beal, after missing 5 games, drops 26 points. Russell Westbrook, his 20th triple-double of the year. Was that move for the Wizards just an absolute steal, getting a guy like Westbrook in there?
Go ahead, Scott.
It was. And a lot of people said, oh, Westbrook and Beal won't be able to play together. They've done pretty well together. They seem to enjoy playing together, and it's turned out to be a really good deal for them.
It really has. And it always seems like when Russell Westbrook goes somewhere, that first half of year is pretty good before he starts to take over a team potentially. So I'm very excited. I like to see Bradley Beal succeed, obviously, as St. Louisan. So you definitely like to see that. The T-Wolves, 137 lost to the Pacers, 141 tonight. The Holiday brothers, Aaron and Justin, 43 points combined. You look at the East and you go, it's the East. Who's going to come out of that division? Who knows? Who's coming out of that conference? Who knows? But some pretty high-scoring games over there as well. You got the Celtics, a 101 victory, 101-99 victory over the Knicks. The Nets, 139-111 over the Pelicans. The Grizzlies, 131-113 over the Hawks. The Rockets beat the Mavs 102-93, and the Hornets, a 113-102 victory over the Thunder. Talking about the Eastern Conference real quick, Durant, 23 games missed. He hit 17 points on perfect shooting tonight. With Kevin Durant healthy, is it the Nets division and conference to lose?
Yeah, I say this is a make or break year for the Brooklyn Nets, because the thing is,
New Jersey, Brooklyn Nets.
My bad. The thing is, it's finals or bust in my mind. You go out and you get Blake Griffin. You have Kevin Durant. You have James Harden on this team. James Harden, man, let's talk about him real quick. What kind of changes he did to his body? He's been playing like an all-star since he went to Brooklyn. Your thoughts on that? Because that's been fun to watch.
I just have one question to ask you, Joe, because you've been super adamant against super teams. You just named a bunch of guys that are star quality players.
Okay.
The Nets are a super team.
Yes.
So what do you feel about that?
You know what?
Oh, here it goes.
Okay.
Yeah,
you know what? I'll tell you. You know what? They look good on paper. They remind me of how the Golden State Warriors were built when they first started. The thing was, I think this team has a really good chance to go to the finals this year and win a finals. But I understand that. But Wags, the reason why I don't like super teams is ego. There's a lot of ego on that Brooklyn Nets team. Is that going to hinder them in the end? Yes, they may look like the clear-cut favorite, but will that ego kind of hinder them on their way to the NBA Finals? Yes or no?
So
Scott, I don't even know what to say.
I have a question before we go any further. How are they like the Golden State Warriors when they were first built? Because Clay and Steph and Draymond, they all got drafted by the Warriors. They didn't go out and steal other people's superstars. They were all they're nothing alike.
Okay. But seriously though, will this work in Brooklyn is my question, because I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of ego on that team. Do you guys think there's too much ego on the Brooklyn Nets at this point?
I think they've put their egos aside. Have you seen what they've done since James Harden got there? They put their egos aside because they want to win.
What about you, Wags?
So, I mean, yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. Egos aside, they're going to go out and get the victory. I think they have a chance, but the West is tough. All right, running out of time here, so let's get your guys' predictions for tomorrow, the Cardinals home opener. What do you think the final score is? And, is it a happy victory tomorrow?
It's a happy victory tomorrow, and I'm going to say 5-2. Good guys. 5-2 St. Louis Cardinals. Wainwright's going to pitch a gem. I think it's going to be 7 innings, 2 runs, a walk, and 7 strikeouts.
Wow. I'm going to go 4-1. I don't think Wainwright pitches that long, especially. Yeah, I think he'd probably go 6. But yeah, I'm going to say 4-1. I think the Cardinals win. Although they have a history of having a tough time on home openers with all of the pageantry that goes on, they don't always play real great after all that. But I think they do win tomorrow.
I agree. I'm going to go 3-1. I think it's going to be a tightly contested game late into the later innings. I think you're going to get more 5th or 6th inning before runs are scored. But it is going to be a Cardinal victory. And just so you guys know, you're going to see a lot of names on the comment section. Literally 15, it feels like, of my employees at Chick-fil-A have been watching this show tonight. I don't know why you guys decided to join, but thank you. And I know I'm going to get a lot of ribbing when I get to work tomorrow. So thank you guys for listening and enjoying. And we will see you guys tomorrow night here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions.